What up, yo? It's Jay Gatto here, coming at you again with another video. And today I'm going to be talking about fighting games, and mainly, my picks for um, the top fighting game characters. You know, kind of like my Mount Rushmore of fighting game characters. At least according to me, according to how the time I came up, was where, arcade games were all over the place. Everywhere you went, there was arcade games. And, and, the characters I picked in this video are characters that made an impact, not just on me. Some of them are going to be personal, and some of them are going to be just, the whole thing, that people were talking about at that moment was that character. But for my first pick, it's obviously from Street Fighter 2, which is the very first game, the very first fighting game that I ever played. Street Fighter 2. The character, of course, is Ryu. It was the first character that caught my attention from Street Fighter. Especially in the beginning, the opening sequence, he's jumping around and he's throwing a fireball or whatever. I mean, as a kid, you see something like that and you're like, damn, that's crazy, that's awesome. And he gets to wear, a karate uniform, out and about, which is not normal. You think about that later. But at first you're just looking at this, character, and you're like, damn, that's crazy. As a kid, he's throwing fireballs and beating people up with spinning kicks and stuff like that. And, I kept, drawing him, and, the whole game was cool. I always liked Ryu's theme song as well, especially on Street Fighter 2. His theme song was, was top notch. In my opinion, probably the best one. His and I like Ken's as well. But yeah, that's pretty much it. I also like the bandana. I always try to kind of emulate him as well, because of the bandana, and the whole relationship between him and his brother, somehow came through the screen. Like the rivalry between them. And what else did I like? I like the way he threw the fireballs and the sounds he would make. I never seen anything like it at that moment. Like somebody throwing fireballs and screaming out the move. Like, that was crazy to me, because most of the time, you see action movies and they're just making the moves and whatever. That was the first time I saw somebody saying the move before they did it, and I thought it was like pretty cool. And every time I would just hear that Hadouken, the way he would say it, it's definitely made an impact on me. It got me into art and even martial arts as well. So coming in at number 2 is another game that I closely, probably like a year later or something like that. I really don't remember. I discovered actually at a pizza place called Pizza Inn. I don't know if you guys know this pizza place, but it's not that. I mean, it's okay, but there's better pizzas out there. I just tend to like pizza a lot, so I used to go there as a kid, and in that place, that pizza place, there was a fighting game called Mortal Kombat, and it was very graphic. It was very different from something like Street Fighter, where there wasn't really blood in it, except for at the end, when they're all beat up and everything. And Mortal Kombat was kind of taking that and showing the blood. They were very not censoring themselves at all. There was blood dripping all over the place. It was very violent. And one of the main characters that was causing, trouble was Scorpion. You know, everybody was talking about Scorpion. It wasn't just me. You know, it was different than Street Fighter. Street Fighter was just, you know, me and my brother, you know, kind of went with my father to the store, and we would play Street Fighter, you know, while he was out there shopping. And that was Street Fighter. But with Mortal Kombat, everybody was talking about Mortal Kombat. It was even in the news. You know, people were, adults were saying that it was, you know, satanic, or that it was too violent for kids. And, you know, Mortal Kombat was the whole reason why they started, you know, censoring stuff, especially video games, as far as I can remember. And the main character, you know, that was causing, you know, especially amongst the kids my age, you know, was Scorpion. He was probably the most terrifying, especially for your parents, you know, to see a guy take off his mask and he has a skeleton face and he burns his victims alive. You know, of course, it was causing, you know, a bunch of rumors, you know, a bunch of urban legends around Scorpion that, you know, if you did a certain move on the machines, on the arcade machines, Scorpion would turn around and look at you, and the skeleton would cause you to panic and, you know, your heart to stop. And supposedly this was an urban legend that, you know, this was going around. And kids were, you know, dying because of watching. And of course, this is probably something that the parents made up, so they'll stop playing the game or something, which wouldn't be, you know, far-fetched. But you know, Scorpion was definitely, you know, everybody's favorite character, and he was definitely a guy that I drew a lot, you know, a lot. It was kind of weird how much I drew Scorpion, even more than Ryu. You know, Ryu was more of a thing that I was trying to emulate more, like, you know, the bandana and the way he would fix his gloves and stuff. You know, I would try to emulate him as myself. But when it came to Scorpion, you know, I was really obsessed with drawing him. But at the beginning, you know, I had trouble with the proportions and the anatomy of humans. So most of my Scorpion drawings came out looking with small feet and big upper bodies, and, you know, kind of like monkeys. But, you know, you learn. But yeah, Scorpion was definitely, you know, a big impact, you know, not just on me, but on everybody around me, and, you know, big part of the video game culture as well. Arcade culture. So yeah. And then in at number 3 is from a game called Fatal Fury. Now, Fatal Fury, I actually didn't play when I discovered, you know, this character, which is Terry Bogart. I actually saw the animated movie called Fatal Fury. And then after I saw that movie, I was like, dude, this thing's awesome. Because I had already seen Street Fighter 2, the movie, the animated movie. And I remember thinking, man, like, you know, Ryu was so cool. You know, he gets to walk around in his gi or in his bandana and everything. But then I realized, you know, quickly realized that you can't really, you know, relate too much to Ryu. Because Ryu's kind of like he's a bit of a weirdo, you know. He's a guy on a gi. He's a hobo with a gi, and he walks around on his gi. You know, if you see somebody on, you know, in the streets walking around with a gi, you know, you're obviously gonna think he's kind of crazy, or you know, maybe stay away from that guy. You know, he's a hobo. He's a weirdo. And then with Scorpion, of course, if you see Scorpion around, you know, you can't really relate to Scorpion. You know, these are guys that are like larger than life almost. But then Terry Bogart was a little bit different. Terry Bogart, I could actually, you know, kind of relate to. You know, he just had a cap on, which is like every, you know, person, you know, 9 times out of 10, you know, somebody's wearing a cap. He had blue jeans on, and, you know, he was just a regular dude, but just a little cooler. And, you know, you could actually see somebody pulling that look off and actually knowing how to fight. You know, I knew people, being from Texas, I knew people that were kind of like Terry, you know. And that's what I liked about Terry Bogart. you know. And I remember watching that movie and thinking, man, like, you know, because you would always think, you know, you can't be real, you can't be these other guys. But Terry Bogart, you know, you could really relate to this kind of Street Fighter type guy who, you know, dressed like kind of like an American. Of course, this is a little bit exaggerated, and some of the stuff that he would say was kind of like cliche things that Americans supposedly would say to other countries, you know, especially like the Japanese culture. They would see us in this way. And it's kind of accurate, but, you know, like I said, a little bit exaggerated with the long hair and the muscles and everything. But yeah, Terry Bogard was definitely, you know, one of the coolest characters and made a big impact on me personally. And it made an impact not so much here in the US, but like when I went to Mexico for vacations, you know, man, over there it was crazy. Terry Bogard, you know. And the other game, King of Fighters, you know, was big in Mexico. So over here in the US, you know, arcade, especially where I'm from, the arcade culture was big, but it wasn't a King of Fighters type thing. It was more like Street Fighter, Marvel vs. Capcom, Marvel vs. Capcom 2. You know, a lot of versus games were big. You know, that when the versus games were on top, that in my opinion was the golden age of arcade culture. Because everybody was out looking for them, everybody was playing them, and Mortal Kombat as well. Every time there was a new Mortal Kombat, and Tekken, you know, Tekken 2, Tekken 3, all of those. I mean, everybody was playing those games. And, you know, those were the days, you know, those were the days where it was like, you know, you would just go to places where you knew they had the game. And yeah, so, but like I said, Terry Bogard, like the SNK characters, they weren't that big here in the US. You know, they were kind of big when they crossed over, you know, Street Fighter vs. SNK, stuff like that. But for the most part, you know, they were bigger in Mexico, at least from my point of view. And so moving on to number 4. Now this one's going to be a bit controversial, and some people are gonna, you know, probably disagree with me, and I gotta be honest with this character. So you're probably gonna think, you know, Chung Lee, you know, should probably be here, and you know, I wouldn't argue with you, but the reason that I'm gonna pick Morrigan from Darkstalkers is because it personally made an impact on me. And I mean, obviously you could see why. she was hot, right? And to me, I was in middle school when I first saw Morrigan, and I didn't see her in you know, in Darkstalkers. Although I knew about Darkstalkers, I never was that interested in it at first until I saw Marvel vs. Capcom 2, and I saw, you know, Morrigan. I believe it was 2 or 1. And I remember thinking, you know, till this day, I haven't seen more iconic poses than the ones that Morrigan had in that video game. And I know you guys are probably saying, you know, that's, you're being horny or whatever. In a way, maybe, yes, that has something to do with it. But, you know, further investigation, you know, she was one of the first lead female characters in a video game, which I think, you know, is pretty cool. And yeah, I don't think that's something to take lightly at all. She is a succubus, which is one of those demons that come at night and sit on your body or whatever. You know, it's the thing about once I started researching Darkstalkers, it was because of Morrigan, and then I got into Darkstalkers because of how the theme I like games with a theme, and I like games or you know that follow a certain theme or something. And the thing I liked about Darkstalkers was that they were taking this monster, thing theme, and taking it to kind of like a fighting game thing. Um, and so yeah, Morrigan is definitely, for me personally, my fourth pick for my Mount Rushmore of Street Fighter characters. And of course, honorable mention, Chung Lee, definitely. She's Chun Li, and she's probably one of the first female characters, period, if I'm not mistaken. I think first before her was Samus, or is that her name? Samus from Nintendo, the robot suit. Yeah, I think Chun Li was probably second, if I'm not mistaken. I'm not that good with the history, but but yeah, guys, that's my list. Let me know if you agree or if you disagree. And if you like, what I do here, please like, comment, and subscribe.